All right, thank you for being here and welcome to our biweekly press conference where we try to take advantage of this opportunity to share information with the public and give you updates on things that are going on within LMPD and the city. So we'll start with our overview of crime as we always do. As you can see, 3 months into the year, we're doing pretty well when it comes to our homicides are down, non-fatal shootings are down, robberies are down, traffic fatalities are down. Still have this point of concern with where suicides in the community are. As we talked about in our last press conference, while that is not necessarily a police forward issue, anytime that the safety of the community is at risk, whether it's by suicide or other means, we are very concerned about it and still like to push out to everyone, use the 998 crisis line. Make sure you're keeping an eye on your family and friends and speaking to them and making sure that they're okay with their mental health situation. One of the other things I'll point out is that last month, in the month of March, we only had 8 homicides, which is good compared to previous years. But what that allowed us to do, as Lieutenant Skaggs from our homicide unit has talked about previously, is that when homicide numbers are lower, those homicide detectives get an opportunity to put more time into those individual cases. And when we're getting good information and cooperation from the public, whether that's calling homicide directly, using 574 LMPD, it gives us more information to follow up with on those homicide investigations. And they were able to clear every homicide that happened in the month of March due to that lower caseload, due to good evidence and good cooperation from the public. So very proud of those homicide detectives and the work that they've been doing. Please continue to cooperate and collaborate with our investigative units. It ultimately drives crime down, keeps people safer, and gets bad criminals off the street so that we can take care of the public the way that we should. We had an amazing spring weekend this past week, and to give a little bit of overview of some of the things that happened, both good and bad, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Edlin. He is the major over the 1st Division, which encompasses downtown, Butchertown, Nulu, all the way over to the Russell neighborhood in Portland. So, Major Edlin.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning, everybody. Like the Chief said, Brian Edlin, major of LMPD's 1st Division, which encompasses downtown here. And as you can see on that slide, Friday night started off as just an amazing night. We have so many things to celebrate here in Louisville, specifically downtown. And Friday night, we had the opening night of baseball at the Bats Slugger Field there. A good-sized crowd, great family event. We had Kid Rock in town at the Yum Center as well, thousands upon thousands of people. The occupancy rates at the hotels were very high. The convention center had an amazing convention that just ended earlier that afternoon. We had the distilleries all along Main Street, Nulu, you name it, just packed. People, downtown was hopping. Beautiful night, a little bit of a breeze, Peter Pan, tons of families going on at the Kentucky Performing Arts Center. And unfortunately, 2 groups of middle school age kids and teenagers, juveniles, 2 groups involved in violence with the shots fired incidents that unfortunately is the talk of the town and not highlighting all these amazing things that were going on that day. In this slide here, one thing we want to point out immediately is you see the marked LMPD cruiser in that red circle on the picture in the right area where we're asking our officers to be. Our detail officers downtown along all those major events that we just talked about, but also in our Waterfront Park area where families enjoy our world-renowned walking bridge. We have officers stationed there. And you also see in the next photo just a good gathering of people enjoying the warm weather, enjoying the night. This right here is just right before the incident occurs as well, up along the walking bridge. We want to point out to everybody listening and everybody in the community that we do have dozens upon dozens of cameras downtown and along the walking bridge, along Waterfront Park. We do not want to hide that fact. We want people to know that you can't come downtown and feel like you're going to get away with crime. It's not just the cameras, it is the proactive nature and the engagement of our officers who are also working downtown. These men and women are incredible, and you're going to hear about some of that incredible work involving this incident here shortly. We're about to play that video that Sergeant Sanders referenced early. This video here occurs in the orange lot. I'm going to play it now as I speak. There is no audio. But what we want to point out here is the impact an incident like this has and can have on our community. We also want to point out that there's parents grabbing their toddlers and running to safety as the incident occurs. I want to highlight again, we talked about the proactive nature and the engagement, the visibility of our officers who are downtown, who are there nearby in the orange light, who is around all these lots downtown. They respond in a very quick manner and ultimately make an arrest, in which, once again, like we talked about earlier, we have kids on the first night of spring break, a beautiful evening, all these events, tons of families, and we have kids, middle school age kids, as well as a 17-year-old with, as you can see in that photo, a Draco, which is essentially an AK-47 pistol that shoots off very high-powered rounds, that our officers immediately were able to get to and confiscate this weapon and do it in a professional manner that kept everybody in the public safe. We also want to highlight, the chief highlighted it in the last press conference 2 weeks ago, but we're going to continue to highlight the work being done not just by officers downtown, but officers everywhere across the city wearing this LMPD badge. They are out there focusing on this violence, and unfortunately, a lot of this violence is occurring with our youth, with these juveniles. And you'll see in that photo, labeled as recently, our CID, our Criminal Interdiction Division, is seizing weapons as well from these juveniles that we just recently talked about, juveniles from across the city. Now I'm going to bring up the chief once again to continue the discussion, and appreciate your all's time.
Thank you, Major Elan. And again, I'd point out the work that those officers are doing, both in CID and everyone who's working these details downtown and other places where we have large groups of people gathering, so that we can make sure that people are kept safe and able to enjoy what's going on downtown. Again, we talk about recruiting all the time, and being a police officer is an absolutely amazing job. You don't get to do anything else like this. The excitement, the energy that comes along with this job, the hours of boredom followed by moments of sheer exhilaration you can't duplicate anywhere else. And so always go to lmpdjobs.com. We will be starting a recruit class in June. We've already had all the applicants for that, but there will be another one in October. So if you're interested, reach out. I know we'll have some people getting laid off at Ford. Come on over. Talk to our recruiters. It's not just police jobs. You don't have to just wear a gun and a badge. There are many other opportunities for professional staff that give us all the tools, the information in order to keep people safe, and that are a vital part of this job as well. And I'll point out that picture there in this is two of our sergeants, our newest sergeants on our department that we just were able to swear in on Friday night at our awards ceremony. Sergeant Donovan Duncan and Corey Mills, our newest sergeants on the force. A couple of upcoming events. One will be at the Waterfront on April 7th, and this is an opportunity for us to work with our Victim Services Unit, whom we've talked about before, but the amazing work that they do working with victims of violent crime and victims' families in order to make those survivors whole again. We not just want people to come through situations, we want them to thrive and be a functional, vibrant part of society again, and that's all what our real goal is when it comes to dealing with victims of crime. So please join us for that. Remember that Thunder Over Louisville is coming up in just 10 days, a week and a half from now, so another exciting event. Obviously, I think we're all concerned about what the weather's going to do in the next couple of days. There will be a press conference with the mayor and our Special Operations Division Commander, Major Arnold Rivera, to give more details about all of the plans related to that. But we want to make sure that everybody in these rains and everything that are coming up in the next couple of days, don't drive into standing water. Don't go around barricades. You all would be surprised how many people drive around blocked streets and barricades and marked police cars with lights on in order to flood their cars out. It's an extremely dangerous situation. Don't win a Darwin Award on this. It's not worth it. You're not going to get through the floodwaters. Don't think that just because you have a big SUV that you're going to be able to make it. Turn around and go another direction. Find a safe way home. Floodwaters are nothing to joke with, and it's worth the extra 5 minutes to find a safer route home. One other thing that I want to point out is the new park downtown that we have. Waterfront Development put together this Playport Park down at 10th Street and Rowan in that area. Deborah Belitsky and her team have done an amazing job. This park is really, really awesome if you haven't had a chance to check it out. And over the weekend, we had tons of people visiting the park. We did have an incident with a young child where an officer ended up going up with fire department and helping them out. You can see an officer up there in the tunnel. But it was an opportunity for us to interact with all of the kids down there, and it turns into a great community event to be able to go down there and experience that park. This park is unique for the city of Louisville, and it's another great way that we're not only developing our waterfront in downtown, but we're understanding that downtown is Louisville's neighborhood and everybody is welcome there. And so we want to give more opportunities and create safe spaces for people to come together and celebrate this great weather that we're having hopefully after the next couple of days. So with that, I will open it up to questions.
Of course.
So the question was about the weather coming up and the potential of water rescues and things like that. So we do have a full-time river unit that helps with water safety and things like that. But what I think you find is that in these weather situations, it's not the river that's the concern. Obviously, when it comes down to we're going to have to shut down streets and things like that at the river is going to move much more quickly. So if you're not an experienced boater or you don't have a legitimate reason to be out on the river in that type of weather, don't be. Don't put yourself in that situation. Put off that entertainment for another weekend. But the real problem comes into play in these flash floods where it hits streets and viaducts and low overhangs and things like that. Stay out of those areas. Those are the places where we're not necessarily accustomed to water being on a regular basis. And so between the fire department, the police department, and all of our emergency services, we will have personnel available to effect those rescues. But understand that when you make decisions to go out in those situations, you're not only putting yourself at risk, but you're putting those first responders at risk as well. And so we ask that you take the extra few minutes. Be careful in this weather. We don't want to see anybody get hurt. And so please be careful with this weather. And any plans that have to be altered around events and things like that, we'll make sure that those are put out and everyone is aware of them.
Are there any specific areas of town that are historically problem areas for streets that require closures your officers would have to do?
I think when you look at any of the viaducts in particular, where we have those railroad crossings and those underpasses, please be very careful when you're approaching those. And we also know where there are creeks and things like that come up. The other thing is clean your yard debris. Yard debris is often what clogs drains in regular neighborhoods and causes flooding on streets. So clean that yard debris up before we get to the point where the storm is clogging the drains. Those are simple things that you have some agency over in order to make sure that your neighborhood is a little bit safer.
Chief,
Yes,
I learned today that LMPD civilian employees at the tow lot on Frankfurt Ave were stealing items that were about to go to auction at least a few times from cars in 2024. Do you know how many employees may have been involved in that, and if any of them have been fired?
So I'm not going to go into the specifics of the investigation. That investigation was turned over to the county attorney's office for review, and we also have an internal investigation going on at the same time.
Have the employees faced any kind of discipline to this point?
We are in the process of that internal investigation right now, and so I'm not going to go into some details because we have some things that we're working on with that.
Chief, I asked the mayor yesterday what the city was doing to ensure the safety of people at Waterfront Park and downtown. He said that LMPD is increasing patrols since that incident. Can you give us more details as to what you guys are doing to ensure the safety of people who go downtown?
Well, I'll turn it over to Major Edlin in just a second to speak on the increased patrols downtown and the waterfront. But in general, when you look at our crime plan and our strategy that we've employed, we didn't increase patrols following this. We were already increasing patrols in those areas. So we understand that where people gather, we need to have police officers so that we can have not only a response, but a deterrent effect. And we want people to see police officers in those areas and feel safe. But we also want people who might be of the criminal ilk to see police officers and understand that is not a place they want to be and that it's not a place that they want to commit crime. But for some more specific information, I'll turn it over to Major Edlin.
Thanks for the question. I think the chief hit the nail on the head. The only thing I want to add to that is, in addition to what he said about doing it ahead of time, the officers who actually took action in this incident that we just talked about are actually not First Division officers. Officers downtown who work there every day were involved and responded, but the officers who actually went and seized the weapon and stopped the juveniles are officers from other divisions who proactively sign up to work the overtime details that we have downtown. So we are offering several overtime details to increase that visibility. Our officers downtown love working these details as well and often sign up for it. So we have people who are familiar with the area, familiar with the events, familiar with the tourism, familiar with the families, that really balance all of those things, who love to be in this area, be visible to protect the community who's coming to enjoy these events.
And can I ask more about that gun that you found? That particular gun that you showed is the one involved in the incident where the shots were fired. Is that correct?
It's a great question because we believe so, yes. But there's several groups involved in this, so we're still in that investigation process now. Obviously, that was involved in some capacity, yes.
And that gun was found where, on a middle school aged kid,
That gun in particular was on a 17-year-old.
17-year-old?
Yes. Yes.
Did you guys announce a new arrest in the Waterfront Park incident today, or was an arrest announced over the weekend?
No, just from the weekend incident, the arrests that were made are involving the juveniles. No new arrests have been made.
How many?
Several juveniles, but 2 from that incident in particular.
Tell us more about that gun. What is that thing, and what can it do?
Well, it is a Draco, is what it's called. Essentially, it's a smaller version of an AK-47. It shoots rifle rounds.
You said there were 2 arrests and then other juveniles. What do you mean by that last part?
There's juvenile groups involved. These groups were there's 2 groups involved in this incident in particular. The 2 that were arrested in this specific incident where this gun was seized is 2 tied into one group.
And I know this is a loose term, but gangs? Two gangs?
We need our investigators to confirm and verify that, but we all we know at the time is it is 2 separate groups.
Any idea of what predicated it?
No. There is no idea of what predicated that in that moment.
Chief, do you want to say anything about if the Group Violence Intervention Initiative can be a part of solving instances like this?
So the question is the role of GVI, or Group Violence Intervention, and I actually appreciate you bringing up that point, because that is one of the tools that we do use to identify members of these groups so that we can target them for intervention. And so we like to do that in a proactive way, but it also gives us some of that back-end intelligence to be able to confirm whether or not these juveniles are part of known groups, or is this a new thing, or are they part of a structured gang? And so the group violence intervention, the intel that comes out of that, and the deterrence process is very important, and it is a great tool that we have to use for that. So.
Have you seen the video of that Derby e-cigs robbery overnight? It was pretty brazen, but they smashed into a bunch of stuff. Apparently they stole a car, possibly guns from nearby. I don't know if you guys have any updates or have seen that at all.
So the question was about the Derby e-cigs robbery, burglary. I don't have any specific information on that. I would have to defer that to our PIO's office.
How are you looking on time this year? Because we've had flooding the last 6 weeks and then it receded. Are you all on time and prepared enough for this new round of flooding, but also I guess we didn't know it was coming, but especially for thunder? Has it set you back at all?
So the question was, has the rain and the weather set us back in our preparation for Thunder and Derby and all those events? And I'll say absolutely not. These are events that are planned for. We start the planning for Derby events right after those events end the year before. So these hiccups don't keep us out of the office and they don't keep us out of the field. So we're able to still plan for everything as is.
Are either of you able to just speak to if it is concerning when guns like an AK-47 are confiscated from a 17-year-old, just giving you insight into like what the community is up against when it comes to violence and safety?
So the question is what is the level of concern when we're seizing weapons like this off of juveniles, 17, 15, 16-year-old kids? And I take kind of 2 separate approaches to that, is because it is concerning. I think that's a given. But what one thing is that if it's up to us to raise your kids, you've already lost. So parents need to do their job and be parents. I know that it's very difficult with teenagers to keep them out of trouble, but the excuse of my kid got caught up in the wrong group is not acceptable to me. Sometimes your kid is the wrong kid. That's the one that's wrong for the group. And so you need to recognize that. And parents need to be involved in their kids' lives. And sometimes you just have to tell your kids no. If you want to keep your kid alive, plain and simple. The other side of it is this is an uphill climb for us to deal with this level of violence. And this is not an easy job for a reason. And we're asking officers to go out there, risk life and limb in order to keep these kids alive, sometimes against the kids' will themselves. And so the proliferation of guns in the community, the easy availability of guns, I mean, I think most of you would say, I have no clue where you would even get that type of weapon, let alone how a 16 or 17-year-old would. So the ease of access, one of the things I'll say that affects the ease of access is simply lock your car. Lock your car. We have so many guns that get stolen out of cars, and don't think that it's not going to happen to you. Break into cars, thefts from autos are a crime of opportunity. Don't leave valuables sitting out in your car. Don't leave your car unlocked. And don't leave your key fob in your car. The number of people that do those things make it easy for guns to be stolen out of cars and things like that. So it's very concerning to me, and it should be concerning to everyone that we have juveniles with this level of firepower out on the street.
We have time for a couple more.
The event that happened at the Big Four, obviously, was the start of spring break in Louisville. You guys had been extra busy with the spring break. I know a couple weeks ago you talked about how you're prepping for spring break. Has it been to what you thought, below, higher?
So the question is, what has happened with spring break according to our expectations? And I think it's gone about as we would expect, right? So the weather's nice, which is great, or it has been nice. But we've also put a lot of officers out there, and so I wouldn't say that we've found anything that was not to our expectation this particular spring break.
Knowing that incident happened in broad daylight in one of the most popular areas of Louisville and Waterfront Park, we have a ton of fun stuff coming up, right? Thunder, concerts, that new park. I mean, what's your message on public safety to people who are planning on attending these events?
So my message to the community when you see things like that is that I'm not going to let a 15-year-old terrorize this community. We are going to go out there as a community. We are still going to have fun. We are still going to celebrate. We are still going to gather. And we are going to do our jobs as the police department to make sure that we have that presence and we have that response so that people can do that in a safe and enjoyable way. So thank you all.